What if the future ruler cannot speak clearly, cannot walk steadily, cannot learn as expected? Throughout centuries, this wasn't just a family heartbreak. It was a political catastrophe that could shatter kingdoms. Royal bloodlines demanded perfection, and children who failed that impossible standard simply disappeared. But where exactly did these children go? Medieval Europe's grand throne rooms showcased only worthy heirs, while monasteries received mysterious midnight deliveries. Cold stone corridors echoed with footsteps of servants carrying bundled infants toward lives of deliberate obscurity. Royal families believed their divine right flowed through flawless lineages. Any child born with visible differences threatened this sacred mythology. Medieval physicians, lacking genetic understanding, declared such births as divine punishment or cursed bloodlines. Here's the systematic cover-up that spanned centuries. Ancient chronicles mention royal children who died in infancy with suspicious frequency. But monastery records tell different stories. Unnamed children arriving healthy, living decades in religious institutions. Official genealogies were deliberately edited, removing inconvenient family members from history itself. Remote country estates became prisons for royal children whose only crime was being born different. Monastery gates swung shut behind carriages, sealing away futures that could have been. These closed doors became symbols of shame, hiding countless children whose names we'll never know. Even in 20th century England, this medieval mindset persisted, proving that bloodline obsession dies hard when reputation matters more than humanity. Imagine discovering your official death certificate while you're still breathing. Two royal sisters spent nearly a century in institutional wards, declared deceased in family records, while desperately waiting for visits that never materialized. This isn't medieval cruelty. This happened in 20th century Britain. But how do you erase living people from royal bloodlines? 1919 and 1926. Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon entered the world as Queen Elizabeth's first cousins. Severe intellectual disabilities, possibly Down syndrome, marked them as inconvenient shrews for Britain's most scrutinized family. Royal Earlswood Hospital in Surrey became their permanent address, while Buckingham Palace pretended they'd never existed. Utilitarian wards replaced nurseries, institutional meals substituted family dinners. Fellow patients became surrogate siblings. Here's the shocking deception that lasted 8 decades. Official Bowes-Lyon genealogies listed both sisters as deceased in childhood while they lived, breathed, and aged in hospital corridors. Empty visiting chairs symbolized abandonment as relatives chose reputation over relationship. 1980s investigative journalism shattered this facade when reporters discovered the sisters alive and forgotten. Public outrage erupted as Britain realized the royal family had perpetrated a living lie for generations. Nerissa died 1986, Catherine 2014. Both in institutional obscurity, their existence acknowledged only after scandal forced truth into daylight. Royal shame had stolen their identities for nearly an entire century. Study family portraits carefully and you'll notice something peculiar. Princess Alexandrine appears in every photograph, but always positioned at the margins. Visible yet separated, included but isolated. This deliberate placement tells a story of love struggling against social limitations. But what happens when royal families choose compassion over concealment? 1915, wartime Germany births Princess Alexandrine of Prussia to crown Prince Wilhelm. Down syndrome marks her as different in an empire demanding imperial perfection, yet her family makes an unprecedented choice, keeping her home rather than hiding her away. Luxurious Prussian palaces become Alexandrine's playground, where she develops genuine relationships with siblings and parents. Special schools in Berlin educate her according to her abilities, while family photographers capture her gentle smile alongside relatives. Here's the remarkable experiment in royal inclusion. Unlike countless hidden children, Alexandrine enjoys 65 years of family warmth. She attends educational facilities, participates in private celebrations, and experiences affection without institutional barriers. Her positioning in photographs, peripheral but present, symbolizes society's limited acceptance. Crown Prince Wilhelm chooses paternal devotion over political protocol, proving royal families can prioritize humanity over image. Yet even compassionate choices carried constraints. Alexandrine remains excluded from official duties, her public appearances carefully managed. When she dies peacefully in 1980, Alexandrine leaves behind evidence that love can coexist with social boundaries, though true equality remained tantalizingly beyond reach. While Europe erupted in warfare and dictators seized power, France's future president discovered his greatest battle wasn't on any battlefield. It was defending his daughter's right to be loved openly in a world demanding flawless leadership. Charles de Gaulle chose vulnerability over invincibility, but what transforms a military commander into a tender father? 1928 brings Anne de Gaulle into a family destined for historical greatness. Down syndrome marks her as different, yet her parents make a revolutionary decision, embracing her completely rather than hiding their imperfect child from political scrutiny. Military households typically prize strength and strategic thinking, but Anne's presence teaches the de Gaulle that true power lies in unconditional acceptance. Her father, who would command armies and liberate nations, finds his deepest joy in simple moments with his beloved daughter. Here's the extraordinary love story that changed a future president. Unlike royal families prioritizing reputation, the de Gaulles integrate Anne fully into family life. She attends dinners, participates in celebrations, and receives the same devotion given her siblings. This radical inclusion challenges societal expectations about leadership and vulnerability. Tragedy strikes when pneumonia claims Anne at 20 years old. Rather than bearing their grief privately, Yvonne de Gaulle channels loss into purpose, establishing Foundation Anne de Gaulle, a hospital dedicated to children society typically abandons. Anne's legacy proves that acknowledging difference can strengthen rather than weaken powerful families. Medieval scribes wrote of royal infants who perished in early months with suspicious regularity. But monastery ledgers tell different tales. Healthy children arriving under moonlight, living decades in religious isolation. What if these weren't deaths but deliberate disappearances? But how many royal children vanished into historical amnesia? Ancient castle towers concealed nurseries where imperfect heirs spent abbreviated childhoods before mysterious transfers. Candlelit monastery cells became permanent homes for children whose only transgression was failing to embody dynastic ideals. Chronicle writers, commissioned by royal patrons, perfected the art of historical editing. Inconvenient offspring simply evaporated from official genealogies, while inheritance laws adapted to exclude problematic bloodlines. Here's the systematic erasure spanning 8 centuries. Archaeological excavations now reveal monastery graveyards with unmarked stones, evidence of lives deliberately forgotten. Medieval medical texts describe children with divine afflictions, requiring immediate separation from noble households. Remote estates across Europe house shadow populations of royal children, their identities stripped away but their basic needs grudgingly met. Servants sworn to eternal silence transported these vanished heirs to lives of orchestrated obscurity. Modern historians piece together fragmentary evidence, monastery records mentioning unnamed children, suspicious gaps in royal genealogies, inheritance documents mysteriously amended. These unnamed thousands lived and died without acknowledgement, their silence echoing through centuries, demanding that we remember what was systematically erased from human memory. Today, individuals with Down syndrome operate businesses, teach children, compete in Olympic arenas, and deliver TED Talks that move audiences to tears. They fall in love, marry, and contribute meaningfully to communities that once rejected them. What sparked this revolutionary transformation? But how did society move from concealment to celebration? 1960s medical breakthroughs demolished centuries of ignorance, revealing Down syndrome as a genetic variation rather than divine punishment. Educational pioneers demonstrated that appropriate support unlocks hidden potential, while legal advocates secured fundamental rights previously denied. Inclusive classrooms replaced segregated institutions as teachers discovered that diversity enriches learning environments for all students. Workplace integration followed, with employers recognizing unique talents and perspectives that individuals with Down syndrome contribute. Here's the complete revolution that overturned 800 years of discrimination. Special Olympics, founded in 1968, showcased athletic abilities that shattered stereotypes. Television portrayals evolved from pity-inducing objects to complex characters pursuing dreams and relationships. Social media amplified self-advocacy voices, allowing individuals to define their own narratives. Modern families embrace difference as strength rather than shame. Hospital nurseries witness celebrations instead of crisis meetings when Down syndrome babies arrive. School hallways echo with laughter from integrated friendships unimaginable generations ago. We honor hidden royal children by ensuring today's children experience open doors where once stood walls. Their legacy illuminates progress, while reminding us that dignity delayed is dignity denied, and vigilance remains essential.